Our products are in most households around the world. The most successful route we did was in India. It was a very special way how we entered the Indian market. We are not only a hidden champion as a company, we are a hidden champion by function. My name is Andreas Hettich. I'm the fourth generation leader of the Hettich Group. I'm 56 years old, married, 3 children, and I'm enjoying being part of the Hettich family and the Hettich success story. So the family business is in place since 1888. As the fourth generation, I did my university degree in electrical engineering and my PhD there. And since the year 2000, I entered the operative business in Kirchlengern. I am the fourth child of my parents, so I have been the backup basically. So it never been the obvious way for me to get into the business. But my sisters and my brothers, they didn't want to enter it. And at the same time, we bought back shares from external shareholders. And with this moment, I started my career at Hettich. We have a tradition of engineers in our family. So my grandfather was an engineer. My father has been an engineer, and I'm an engineer as well. In the late 1980s, 10 of 13 shareholders sold their shares. And for 10 years, there have been an external majority to our business. In the end of the 1990s, we had the chance to buy these shares. And my father said he will not do it for himself because he was close to be 70 at that time. He said, we will only do it if one of my children likes to enter the business. So my sisters have been totally different professions. A singer, interpreter, but my brother was more close to the business as he studied economics and was working at one of the big 5 at that time, big 4 now. But he lives in Berlin. He was not that eager to come back to our small village. And I was just in the final way of my PhD in mobile communication. And I worked very closely with Philips and Ericsson, and I learned going on in mobile communication means big corporations. And I learned it's quite bureaucratic. You cannot do your own thing, your own decisions. So I was quite happy when my father asked me whether I like to enter the business and can do my own thing and own decisions. And therefore, he was also very happy with this decision. The Hettich business is all about interior solutions. We bring the magic into your living and working environment by bringing movement into furniture and kitchens, and lighting your environment by smooth movements, by clever solutions. So back in 1888, my grandfather started the business at an age of 51 with a small piece for cuckoo clocks. At that time, we were located in the Black Forest in south of Germany, and he invented a small machine. Today, you would call it probably more kind of tool to produce this small piece for cuckoo clocks much more efficient and in a better quality. So he asked his employer, at that time the Hamburg American clock manufacturer, whether they like to buy from him at a cheaper price with better quality, and that was the start of the business. Unfortunately, he passed away at an age of 57, so just 6 years after. At that time, they had 10 children. The oldest one was 16, the youngest one just a baby. And so my great-grandmother took over, and the oldest child was a girl who had to help in the household with the other 9 siblings. And the oldest boy, Franz Hettich, was 14 and a half, and he has basically to produce. So over the time they survived somehow, And even at that time, they took a very strategic decision that what do we need to drive a business? We need a commercial guy and a technical guy. So Paul Hettich was sent to a commercial school, and my grandfather August was sent to an engineering school. And so together with two more brothers, they developed the business further. In the 1920s, my grandfather invented the first fully automatic production line for piano hinges. That has been at that time the main way to put hinges on a furniture and cabinet, and that was a big push into the business. So in 1930, they decided to establish a second factory here in Herford, where we are sitting today, because even at that time, the German furniture and kitchen industry was concentrated in this region, as it is still today. So we followed our customers, and after some hiccups, because 1930 was probably the worst time to found a company within the Great Depression, but after some while they developed quite well. To make a very long story a little bit shorter, so after the Second World War, in the 1950s, the third generation took over. One of them has been my father, and my father enforced the separation between south of Germany and north of Germany, so Schramberg, Alpersbach and the Black Forest at that time, and Herford here. And therefore the families took two different directions, and my father moved from south of Germany to Herford and established the company or group of companies we have today. Today we are one of the leaders worldwide, so we have a turnover of more than 1.4 billion euros and around more than 8,000 people working for Hettich. We have 18 production sites in 8 countries, 4 in Europe and 4 outside Europe. So we are producing in Germany, Czech Republic, Italy, Spain, Brazil, India, Malaysia and China, and therefore we have a very global setup and catering all markets around the world. Herford is in German terms a mid-sized cities, in a global scale more kind of village, so around 65,000 people living here. It's a very nice environment because we have nice fields and forests around, so you can easily enter into the nature. You hardly have any traffic jams, but on the other hand you have all the things you need. You have all types of schools, you have all types of medical services or other services. You can do your shopping here, and it is very well connected by train, by car. So the main highway of Germany is just close to us. So therefore it's very well located from a logistic point of view. On the other hand, this region, East Westphalia, is very famous for family businesses. So quite a number of big businesses are located here, all owned by families. And therefore it's financially and economically quite strong region. When you look at the mentality, there are some similarities between the Black Forest region, which is also very famous for family business, and East Westphalia. So they're very serious people, hardworking people, and very interested into technology and engineering, and therefore it has been a very good place to grow a business, but also to grow a family, because you are not exposed to the problems of megacities. Entering the business was a bit strange, because at that time I didn't have much working experience. I had my experience from university, so I worked 4 years at the university doing my research basically. So coming to business was a very new thing for me, and even the management was not sure how to handle me, because I was the first family member after roughly 6-7 years with no family members in the business. and therefore it took quite a while to get into the business. So what I did in the beginning was asking, and I quite quickly realized that as all businesses, they used a huge number of abbreviations, but I realized not all of the managers even knew the meaning by themselves. So they were sometimes quite glad if I was asking, because they said, oh, now I know as well. So asking. And on the other hand, I'm very quick with numbers. So that's also a little bit the background of electrical engineering, very mathematical driven engineering topic. And therefore I can very easily find the mistake in a large Excel sheet, or where things are not very logical. So I could easily get into the number space of the business, and that was where I was concentrating first on. When I was grown up, I was not really grown up with the feeling I'm a special guy. So I went to all the public schools in our village, so I was in the neighborhood just as all the other children, and that moved on a little bit. When I entered the company, for sure, I was a little bit in the focus, but mainly I just ignored it. And therefore I didn't feel a very special pressure looking at me. In the very beginning, I took some decisions to also show that I don't like to be treated specially. So I remember very well my first trip to the US. They put me in an extremely expensive, at least in my terms, suite in a hotel. And when I realized the price for it, I just moved out. And our CEO in the US got a heart attack, more or less, because he said, all rooms are booked, I cannot get a different room. I said, you will manage it. And in the end, he managed it, but that gave the sign that I will also take the same things as all the other people at the company. And I also treated everyone like that. So I try to be as I am, basically, and therefore I didn't feel a special pressure on being the family member in the company. So Hettich being a very big company, it took a while to get to know the people. So the first 6 months I was just traveling around, learning the different businesses, because we also have different sales channels, we have different factories around the world, we have different subsidiaries around the world. So it was a lot of traveling, a lot of getting to know people and understanding what our business is all about. In the end, for sure, having more than 8,000 people around the world, you can probably know 200, 300, maximum 400 of them, because across that number you are not able to remember. But that's in the end how many I know over the time, and for sure as time was passing by, I was getting to know the people much better. After, so the first 18 months, I was the assistant of our sales director at Hettich, and I had some special projects. One of it was looking after Brazil. Brazil was not working that successfully, and unfortunately I was not able to turn it around as well. So that was not very successful start, and after 18 months I took over the role of the managing director of our internal service provider, so classical shared service center with IT, bookkeeping, test laboratory, tool shop and all these things. And so I got into contact basically with all the other businesses. But in the end, I was also not that happy, because I couldn't really change much of our businesses. So the real impact I felt starting after basically 5 years. In the year 2005, I was promoted to the board of directors, taking care of logistics and IT. And at that time, we did our largest investment in our logistics center. And there I was able to really get some influence on making this big investment successful. So when we look at our business, the potential for our business is quite simple. We have to look at how many people live in a country. To be a bit more precise, how many households are there in a country and how is the income level. And if you look at that, for sure, the industrial countries usually don't have an increase in population, and the increase in income is also limited. So they are more or less mature markets like Europe, North America. If you look at the growth markets, they are more driven by Asia, South America, Africa. And that was also the philosophy at Hettich. So we started in Germany, expanding to Europe, and then over the time expanded also to the other continents, namely Asia, where we first started with the more industrialized countries like Japan, but then quickly moved over to China and also India. Entering a new market, there are different ways to do so. Our normal way is to start with an importer, a distributor in that country, to get first business, first insights into the country. When this works very well, we are, as a second step, usually start with the sales office, and then as a third step with the sales subsidiary. So we are going step by step, learning about the market, learning about the potential. On the other hand, we have the luxurious situation that most markets around the world use the same products. So a hinge is more or less the same hinge all around the world, or a runner is the same runner all around the world, because most countries are constructing furniture and kitchens in the same way. So we don't have limitations by the different countries or different regulations around the world in a big sense, different from industries like electrical industries or others. Therefore, from the product side, the entry is usually quite easy. We more have to learn about where are the customers, what are the sales channels, direct, via distributors, via dealers, and so on. And therefore, we go a stage process. We never looked at our products in that strategical way that we said, what are the products we can sell worldwide? We started in the furniture business mainly because this has been one of the first customers we had around, and therefore we developed with our customers, and luckily we learned that these products are needed around the world. So even in the very early days with the small piece for a cuckoo clock, I think our third customer was already coming from England, and therefore we always had a kind of international exposure, and were quite lucky that our products are needed around the world. Finding salespeople is quite a challenge around the world. So if you look at our customer base, so furniture producers, kitchen producers are usually located in quite remote places, because that industry is closely linked to forest industry. So it's not in the metros of the countries, it's in the countryside of the countries. They usually are not really exposed to international business, so they hardly speak English. So therefore, we always have to find local people who live in the culture, who speak the language, who have a connection to our customers. On the other hand, they also have to handle the international link or the link to Germany. So we have to find local people with exposure to international business and understanding for furniture and hardware business. That's a combination you don't find that easily, and therefore usually we have to take people from other industries, mainly from building industry more or less, and train them on our products and processes. We train our salespeople by our own academy. So we have technical managers for the technical skills. Furniture hardware looks simple, it isn't. So you need quite a good understanding, first of all, on how furniture and kitchens are constructed and assembled, and how our products are working, and what are the key features in it. So that's the technical side. And on the other side, you also have to train on the commercial things like prices, volumes, conditions, and all the things. So we do all the things in-house. A key in the whole international business are the managing directors or sales directors. These are trained in Germany, so they get an understanding of the heritage of Hettich, what Hettich is about, what are the technology skills, what are the quality in it, what are our values. And one of their main roles is transport these values, this heritage, to their whole team, because it's impossible to take each and everybody to Germany for training. Even our people are not always that fluent in English, and therefore we really have to find the right people to transfer these values and heritage, which is a challenge, but also gives us a cutting edge to other companies which are not that good in transforming these values. Looking at our international expansion, it started in the 1970s with the first subsidiaries around the world. And for sure at that time we didn't have a real plan how to do it. We just started in certain countries, and sometimes it worked out better and sometimes worse, and mainly depended on the people we found. So some understood our business, some were able to transport our values to the markets, some others not. So we had to learn over the time basically how to select the right people, how to train them, but it took us decades to learn. Selecting people still is a challenge. Especially if they're coming from outside the company, you don't know them very well. You have a couple of talks to them, but that's it. So it's very hard to really see what are their values, how is their way of working. So over the time we learned we have to do it in a more structured way. So for the key persons we always do an assessment center. And the main reason is not so much to score in certain tasks. It's more like that 4 or 5 people from our side spend a whole day or at least half a day with a candidate and looking at them from different perspectives and different situations. So we try to get a better feeling, and in the end we have the rule of the veto. If one of the group says no, we are not taking this person. So we get a little bit more picky. The downside of it, it takes longer. And we don't know yet really whether we are really much better than before. So even with an assessment center, it doesn't work out always. So for example, recently our managing director for sales in China left. That was during COVID, so a very special situation. We could not physically go there. We couldn't get candidates from China to our place, so we had to do the recruitment process online, purely online. And that didn't work out that well because he didn't really understand our values. He was working in a different way what we expected, so we had to change the management again. So usually it takes 2-3 years to realize whether it really works out or not, because the training takes some time, understanding of the business takes some time, especially for persons from other industry. You have to give them 12-18 months on a learning curve, and then probably another 6-12 months to show the performance, which means in the end you are 2-3 years until you can really judge whether you have the right people. And that's quite a long time, and therefore the selection process is so crucial. Sometimes you even experience that salespeople are not able to fulfill the basics. So I had one experience in Australia, believe it or not. So the salesperson was physically not able to find the customer. So we were scheduled to visit, it was a carpenter, and he was driving around and around, he couldn't find him. These are very basic things, and for sure that's even not the best performance of the sales manager, the sales director, because having salespeople not able to physically find the customers, which is the most basic thing, it's not very good. This example shows you really have to be close to the people, you really have to travel together with people and not only looking at numbers and conferences. That's one of the key things of salespersons. Usually the best thing they can do is sell themselves, marketing themselves. So they're good at presenting they are the best persons. You really have to dig deeper to find out. Managing people around the world is a special thing. Our organization is built up that people are taking care of them. So we have defined links to the countries which are close to the people who are traveling with them. And also I myself doing traveling around the world, visiting customers in all the different countries together with our sales team to also see how they are presenting themselves, how they're presenting our company, how is the relationship with the customers, and for sure also learn from the customers their needs and what we have to do. Therefore, it's very important to be close to our teams around the world and working closely together. Looking at our international expansion, the most successful route we did was in India. And it was a very, very special way how we entered the Indian market. The Indian economy just opened up in the late 1990s. And at that time it was a fairly pure country, very chaotic, and not on the map of many companies around the world. Looking at the Indian market at that time, 25 years ago, we had two key markets we focused on. It was India and Iran, and even the two managers had a bet on which market will develop faster. In Iran, we started our classical way, looking for a distributor and importer, and started the business. Unfortunately, soon after, there came the sanctions and we had to stop our business. In India, as it was a very regulated market, we looked for a partner and we looked around in our industry whether there's already someone knowledgeable in the furniture, kitchen business or hardware business. There haven't been anybody in the hardware business, but in the furniture business, there have been one who had already a joint venture with a French partner. So we got in contact with them and discussed whether they are eager to develop with us Hettich India. That was the start 25 years ago. In the year 2000, India was not a very natural choice as a country. It was still quite socialist organized from a government side, very bureaucratic, high trade barriers. On the other hand, as I told before, our basic potential is how many people are living in the country. And even at that time, India was the second largest country around the world after China. We thought this country will develop sooner or later. So it's definitely worthwhile to start there because the number of people is just mind-blowing. There must be a business for us, and that's a good thing in our industry. At least carpenters you find in every and each country around the world. So we were quite convinced that there will be a potential and that we have to find a way to enter the market. On the other hand, it was also a big chance to be the first mover in that market. As India was 25 years ago when we started the business, was still a quite regulated market and not that easy to enter market, we decided, different from all the other markets, to start with a joint venture with an Indian partner. We found this Indian partner through our customer in France, who had a joint venture with his partner on the furniture side. So we knew he is at least somehow knowledgeable about the business. And after certain discussions, we realized that our values are fitting quite well. This Indian partner, the Potter Group, is very experienced in joint ventures in different industries and therefore very exposed to international business and international business relationships. And therefore we decided to give it a try. One of the challenges being successful in India is to make the business in a German-Indian way. Saying that, one of our successes or one of our main success factors, to my belief, is really our joint venture. And our joint venture is a real 50-50 joint venture. So no partner can overrule the other partner. We always have to agree on these things. This prevented us from doing it the German way. I strongly believe if we would have started in India the German way, with our structure, with our processes, with our go-to-market strategy, we would have failed or at least not been that successful. The Indian way, especially at that time, India was totally chaotic. Probably 90% of the market was the so-called unorganized market. An unorganized market means in India you're selling to a dealer and this dealer sells to somewhere. You even don't know really what they're doing. And most of the furniture and kitchens were built by carpenters. And carpenters in the Indian way is not a carpenter like in Germany. So the carpenter in India has his tools on hand. So he has no workshop. He lives on the street, and therefore the house owner takes this carpenter, goes to the hardware street and goes from one dealer to the next, buying some wood, buying some nails, buying some glue, buying some hardware. And when he is in a hardware shop, in order that the house owner who's paying the bill is pointing on Hettich, we made some advertisements to house owners. So basically to end consumers. We were not selling to end consumers, but we were marketing to end consumers, which our Indian MD then called a B2B2C business model. Doing B2B2C business model was totally unknown to the Hettich world. In no other market we did it before, and frankly speaking, the Germans, especially the German marketing team, found it a bit strange to do advertisement to end consumers. How do you reach end consumers most efficiently in India? Especially at that time, 20-25 years ago, it was via TV channels. The advantage of India, they have a huge variety of TV channels. They are quite strong. Indians are quite addicted to TV. And on the other hand, it's comparatively affordable, much cheaper than, for example, in Germany or US. Therefore, our Indian team opted for TV ads, for sure also some newspaper ads. And this time we're even doing some big promotions, like last year we sponsored the cricket national team. So we have been on the board on the national team events. We are doing airport advertisements. Sometimes we're doing some advertisements in airplanes. So really the big B2C advertisements just to get a pull effect to our market. Understanding the different markets around the world is the key issue to direct your marketing. For example, in Germany, if you go to a kitchen studio and select your kitchen, you don't have the choice on the hardware. The hardware comes with the kitchen. So the kitchen producer selects the hardware, and whatever he selected, it goes with the kitchen. You don't have an option to choose the one or the other supplier of hardware. That's quite common in most countries around the world. As in India, still most of the furniture and kitchen are still produced by carpenters or very small shops. You can still choose your hardware. You can choose different quality levels, different suppliers, different kind of solutions. And therefore, it's important for the end consumer buying the kitchen and the furniture to be knowledgeable about Hettich. That's also the reason why we have all across India around 25 application centers, which are showrooms where end consumers can get in and learn about all our solutions built in kitchens, in wardrobes, in bedrooms, and so on. Often they come together with their carpenter, their interior designer, or kitchen manufacturers to learn about all the possibilities, because the interior designer, the carpenter, or the producer, they are not able to present it by themselves, so they use our showroom as a kind of their showroom. So we're very close to the end consumers. In markets like Germany, it doesn't make sense at all. As we are doing end consumer marketing heavily in India, Hettich is a well-known name. You can try out yourself. If you meet Indians, you can ask them whether they know Hettich, and I guarantee there's a good possibility that they know Hettich. I'm personally a little bit famous in India. End consumers are usually quite surprised that there's a real person behind this brand. Family business, which is not always that common in India. On the other hand, if I look at my hometown, as we are not doing any B2C marketing, we are just a hidden champion here. I have to sometimes spell my name even in my hometown where I'm living. So it's totally different what's the reception of Hettich in India and Germany. In the year 2001 was my first trip to India. Getting to the country was a very special feeling at that time. When the door of the airplane opened, you could even smell that you are in a different country. At that time, the smell consisted of good and bad things. I will not go deeper into the bad things because you probably can imagine what it has been. The good things were the spices. It's a very spice-intensive country, but the smell was intensive, much more intensive than in most countries around the world. The traffic was absolutely chaotic. There were hardly really paved roads. On a 4-lane road, there have been 8 lanes of people. A lot of tuk-tuks, motorbikes, bicycles, people walking, trucks, and it has been purely the rule of the strongest. So the truck could just go and the others have to get out of the way. There have been only one exception. We are in India, the cows. If there were some cows on the street, everyone were going around the cows, even the trucks. No one was horning a cow because they are holy. So very chaotic, very dirty, a lot of litter all around the streets. Looking at factories, they were very small scale, very manual. So it was hard to imagine that there's a lot of potential in that country, and you really had to still have in mind there are so many people, there must be some potential. Since then, I'm going at least 2 times a year, every year to India. So after 25 years, I have been there probably some 50, 60, 70 times, and India changed a lot all over the time. I felt in love with this country, especially with the people, the spices. I love Indian food, and I love the hospitality there. And definitely, I also love our development as a business and the success of the business. When we started in India, we had from the beginning in our joint venture agreement that we will start manufacturing at some point in time. We as Hettich, we were not that eager to start production immediately because we wanted first to try out whether the market is developing well and we generate enough volume to have own manufacturing in India. So it took some while, some 12, 13 years until we started our first production in Vadodara, and we started with a product which we didn't have in our portfolio at that time, wire baskets. Wire baskets are used in India instead of drawer system, metal drawers or wooden drawers, because you need some circulation in the Indian furniture and kitchen because of the very humid weather. The special things, and which surprised even our engineers at Hettich, was that we are producing stainless steel chromated. Usually you make stainless steel or chromated for protection against rust, but we do both. That means that you can take these baskets, throw it into the Indian Ocean, and after 20 years you take it out and there will be no corrosion at all. Starting with this product, which is quite expensive, proved our high level of quality and durability in the market, but also showed that it's not that easy to combine German and Indian philosophy. So while constructing the factory building, it was an Indian constructor, but a German controller from the German facility management controlled everything. So after some while, the first invoice came from the constructor, and he invoiced 30% more square meters than what he has built. And therefore our German controller cut his bill by 30%, which made the Indian constructor very angry, and we couldn't understand why. So he said that he will not continue to build the building at that price. And then we learned that the Indian way is that you show a good success for the purchaser and the negotiator, negotiating a very, very low price for the square meter, but then the constructor is allowed to bill a little bit more. So you cannot just easily combine Indian and Germans. You can do it the Indian way or the German way. After that experience, we decided we do the Indian way. We said our joint venture partner, which is by the way larger than the Hettich Group, we said they are able to build factories. They have many factories around India and even around the world. So let them do the whole construction process, the Indian team. We will just specify what we need for the machinery in terms of what is the weight per square meter and so on. So with the second, third and fifth factory, it worked out much smoother, and there we learned how to deal with Indian German culture. You really have to adapt your business to India. India in itself is not just one country, it's a bundle of different countries. Just to keep in mind, in India there are 20 official languages. I'm not talking about dialects, I'm talking about different languages. And each part of India is totally different. Then don't go there too much with a European German mindset, because Indians are different. You have to be very flexible, you have to understand the business behavior, you have to adapt it while offering German values. Because German values are well received in the Indian market, like the quality, the durability, the technology, the engineering. Usually not that much that price, but you have to find out your ways. And especially the go-to market is usually very different. It's still very much driven by distributors, by dealers. It's a people business, so really make sure that you find the right people who are in the good contact with the customers, because Indians buy from Indians. They are not just buying products. It's about the relationship. To give you one example how Indians are different from Germans, and that's about timing, or basically it's two examples. First of all, if you do business appointments in India, the level of granularity is you do a business meeting in the morning or the afternoon. You cannot be more precise. Don't trust on a certain time frame, because you just don't know how long it takes to get there. If you're driving in Mumbai, it might take you 30 minutes or 2.5 hours. You never know. But the Indians are flexible, so also your counterpart knows that you cannot be that precisely on time, and therefore they're very flexible. But you have to take into consideration that you cannot plan it like in Germany, like every 2 hours in your appointment. And with that, so we had an invitation to a birthday celebration of our partner, and it was in June this year. So beginning of May, we got not the invitation coming to India, having in mind, we got a save the date. So in Germany, we would send out a save a day a year before. They send out a save a day just 4 weeks before it comes, and the invitation itself just comes 1 week before the event. And there you should be also quite flexible. So we made it to go there, and it has been a great experience. I'm very proud of the development of the whole Hettich Group. Our international share increased from around 30 to 40% 25 years ago to more than 80% these days. So we expanded around the world, and it also enlightened my life, because I'm traveling a lot around the world, and I have the pleasure to get to know the countries by the countryside. So I call it always the real life, not just the metros, which are more or less the same all over the world, but the countryside is still the original cultural habit, and it makes so much fun to meet the people all around the world. And if you ask me what is my favorite place, I can't tell you, because I love them all. Looking to the future, we are transforming our business from being purely furniture and kitchen based to transforming spaces. So we're getting more into architecture, because we believe to make a good living and working environment, it needs more than just the furniture. And therefore we developed some solutions to have a very flexible setup in your apartment, in your workspace, to save space, which is more and more expensive, especially if you look at the metros, and therefore make a good living on less square meters with Hettich. Looking at our heritage, being 137 years in business makes me really proud, and we are looking for the next 150 years. Our products are in most households around the world. Everyone uses us. Unfortunately, not everybody knows us, because most of our products are hidden. We are not only a hidden champion as a company, we are a hidden champion by function. If our products function well, you don't really realize them. Usually you get to know them if they are not working. And there I'm very proud that most people don't know us. I started as an electrical engineer and doing my PhD in mobile communication, but the real fun was going around the world into the real basic industry of furniture and kitchen, and meeting all these people and catering the world with all our solutions. That made me very happy. Looking at success of business, there are so many good ideas around the world and many good products. Usually it comes to understand the real customer needs. If you understand the customer needs, and if customers are really willing to pay for your products or service, then you are becoming successful. Customers are usually quite kind about your services or products, and they will tell it they like it. You just only know it whether they really like it if they are paying for it. Look at the customer feedback. Look at what are they saying, but make sure they're paying for your service and products, because that's the real feedback you get. Just having good ideas and products is not good enough. You really have to get paid for it, so you have to add value for your customers.